Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast. It's called It's There with myself, Connor Phillips, and a broadcasting legend, the broadcasting legend who made this phrase famous. 23 major football championships, 11 Olympics, and countless miscellaneous sporting events. George Hamilton, welcome. And I can't welcome you to your own podcast.
That's a bit of a new one, wouldn't it? Thanks, Connor. It's great to have the opportunity to shoot the breeze in this way and recall moments that provoked the phrase, it's there. And where it came from my childhood watching the great Kenneth Wolstenholme, the man who gave us, some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now in the 1966 World Cup final. And he was a great man for It's There. And David Coleman would do It's There or 1-0 or something like that. And all the greats kind of feed into the person that you are when you lift up the mic and you go. And the thing is, you can't work out that you're going to say it's there if a goal goes in, because it all depends upon the nature of the goal, the nature of the build-up. And I think we're going to find out later that there is an it's there with our guest today, because it happened the way it happened. It was just, it demanded it's there because it was that type of a goal. A goal was not expected at that moment. And then, my goodness, it's there.
Well, this entire podcast series, we will talk to George, obviously, about his career. But what we'll do is we will highlight certain incredible moments in Irish sport. And those moments were soundtracked by the aforementioned George Hamilton. I can, if you allow me to indulge me, right, I'm going to take your book here, right? This is George's book, The Hamilton Notes, right, which you can buy depending on when you're listening to this podcast, right? There's a little half paragraph in here, and I think this kind of sums up what you're about, right? And this is exactly why we wanted to do It's There with George Hamilton. And it goes like this. It says, not that it's been plain sailing, not by a long chalk. Over 50 years of commentary, there have been enough missed connections, misplaced baggage. I was on first name terms at one point with the lady in lost luggage at the airport in Rome. Dodgy hotel rooms can confirm that. Like the course of true love, life on the road doesn't always run smooth. That said, I wouldn't have missed a minute. It sure beats working for a living. And I can adhere to that. Talking beats working for a living as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I know, and to get the opportunity to talk about moments that mean so much to people, that you're actually there in the moment with the player who's done it or the athlete who's done it, and you're there and the audience is there and we're all in it together. And it's just so wonderful when somebody quotes something back to you that you've actually said and you think, yeah, great, I remember exactly what provoked those words. It's just wonderful.
So if you'll allow me to play the role of the fan, because I am the fan. I have been a fan of your work for decades, right? Yes. And the people who are listening to this podcast as well, they can be the fan, right? You play the role of the commentator,
okay,
right? But what we're missing one thing, right? In every episode of It's There, we will have somebody who was a participant.
The player. The athlete.
The one that was there. And we've decided, because this is the first episode, to do a twofer. A two-for one. A person...
A special deal.
Yeah. Is it a bog-off? Is it a buy one, get one free?
Yeah, buy one, get one free, yeah.
Right, we're talking about the big moments in Irish sport, and this man has two. And there's no point in me introducing him, because you say and have said his name in the best way possible.
The one and only Ray Houghton. Ray Houghton, who put the ball in the English net. Ray Houghton, who beat the Italians in Giants Stadium. Ray Houghton, who played with such distinction over so many years for Ireland. The dynamo at the heart of the Irish midfield. What can I say? It's great to have you, Ray. Great to see you.
Pleasure to be here, boys. And that's enough of that, George. Come on. You weren't like that when we were together, when we were doing a few games.
That's very true.
Reality. And it's nice to know that when we spent some time together, some of the rooms that we stayed in, I've got to tell you, were much better than the ones we stayed when I played with the Republic of Ireland, because they were some disastrous places we stayed in, as you well know.
Oh, yeah. We used to travel together, you see, back in the day when the first qualification happened, Euro 88. The press corps travelled with the team and stayed with the team. So it was a much more intimate experience than reporters and commentators are able to have now, and that's how we all got along together like buddies. These guys were on the plinth, they were the stars, they were the players, but we were kind of looking up at the plinth at these guys and able to talk to them socially and play tennis with them and do all sorts with them because we were actually there physically with them.
But did that have the reverse effect ever, Ray? That when potentially a commentator said something that maybe you didn't like, you were able to go back to the bar at the end of a match and say, come here you, I heard you said a thing.
No, it never happened. I can tell you this though, Connor. When we beat Scotland, one of the biggest results we've had, and the change in my mind, when we really started to believe that we were a good side and a team that others feared, when we went up to Hampden Park and beat them 1-0. After the game, we went back to the McDonald's Hotel. I think George was on the piano. We went on quite late, and there was hundreds of fans in the lounge with us. We had an absolutely fantastic night. I think we missed those nights, I've got to be honest. That camaraderie between the media boys, the players and the fans, they all came together, and we had one of the greatest nights. Honestly, it was absolutely brilliant.
Well, let me, if I can, just start with the insight to kind of moment number one. Moment number one is the 1988 European Championships. It's in Germany, right? And let me take you back to that moment you said there now. This is something that we forget, because there was never like a fight. There was never like a Grealish-Rice fight between the Republic of Ireland and Scotland for Ray Houghton, because Scotland never showed any interest from what I have read in previous conversations you and I have had, Ray. But then all of a sudden, it's the group games. It's the build-up to Euro 88, and you're drawn in the same group as Scotland. And I had completely forgotten about that. Where were you when you found out that was going to happen? And I'm sure there was a couple of conversations similar to how Aidan McGeady was treated, how James McCarthy was treated by Scottish fans. How was it for you?
Well, it's different from today, Connor, because there's a lot more social media around. So there would have been a highlighting of far much more than it was back then. It was in a few newspapers, but not much more than that. But all my focus was on the two games against Scotland. We played at Lansdowne Road, the first one. It was 0-0, George, I think, when it wasn't a particularly good game. And then we went up there to Hampden Park. And the day before the game, Jack sprung a surprise on us, because he said, right, I'm going to change the team around without ever practicing it. And he put Ronnie Whelan left back, and he put Paul McGrath right back to mark their two wingers, because he had a plan in place how to really affect the game. And he was absolutely spot on. His decision-making that night couldn't have been better. That was one of the best performances that we had at international level. And as I say, it was the turning point for us as players, believing in each other, believing that we can actually qualify. Yeah, we had a bit of luck in the end, when Scotland went out to Bulgaria, I think it was, and got the victory to get us there. But prior to that, don't forget, there was only one team that qualified out of the group. Not like today, where you've got three chances, if you're in a group of four. It's not like that. Back then, you had to be number one to get through. And that's what we did to get through to the European Championships in 1988. It was a fantastic campaign.
But from a broadcasting perspective, this has never happened before.
I know, and that it's all coming back to me now as Ray tells the story, and there was a little thing in the coverage of it. The goal that won the game for Ireland came from a quickly taken free kick, and the Scottish TV director wasn't prepared for the free kick. The free kick happened, and there was a bit of a panic in the OB truck as he tried to get the camera sequence back on track. And by the time he had, the goal had been scored, and Ireland were in front. It was Mark Lawrenson, wasn't it, that night? And that sticks in my memory about the actual coverage of it. And then, of course, the way it was set up, a 5-team group, Ireland had no match in the last match day. So it was Scotland and Bulgaria. Bulgaria hadn't been beaten at home for quite a while. Scotland weren't expected to do well against Bulgaria. But Tim O'Connor in RTE, who was a great head of sport, he decided to take a chance, and he sent producer Maurice Reedy and me to Sofia to do the game. And we did it live on RTE, this grainy coverage from behind what was still there, the Iron Curtain, and this wet night in Sofia. Scotland are battling hard, and they're holding Bulgaria at bay. And then the ball is out on the right-hand side, the far side of the pitch as we're looking, and there's a really thundering tackle that comes in from the Bulgarian defender, and it's a foul. But the referee plays on. The referee with the name of Helmut Kohl, the same as the German Chancellor, and the Austrian referee waves his arms, he said, play on. And another referee might well have pulled it back for a free kick, but no, on it went. And the sequence then developed, and suddenly Gary Mackay is there with only the goalkeeper to beat. He's on as a substitute, and he scores, and it's quite unbelievable. And the Vasilevsky Stadium is silent because they cannot take this in. And Morris and I are giving it loads up in the comedy box in the back of the stand.
Now, I knew when we started doing this about 10 minutes ago I'd enjoy this, right? But this is like all my dreams come true. This is hearing all the bits about the bits that I didn't know. But we are going to have to fast forward to the 12th of June, 1988. The qualification has happened. It is the first time the Republic of Ireland have ever played in a major tournament, right? Ray, we're going to get lots from you, but like I can't imagine what it's like for you as a young broadcaster, as somebody who is doing commentaries. Like this was, as much as it was Ray's big tournament, this was your big tournament.
Oh
too.
yeah, absolutely, and it couldn't have fallen better because my background was in languages, German and French. I lived in Germany. I had a family in Stuttgart that I'd got to know through work. He was a radio producer on South German radio, Winfried Rösner. And he decided when the draw was made in Ireland, were placed in Stuttgart for their first game. He was on the phone straight away, said, I'll do whatever you need. I'll be your gopher on the ground. And he was. And there's a lovely story about in the build-up to it, because it was England and Ireland, there was the thought that perhaps there could be trouble. So we wanted an interview with the Chief of Police. The Chief of Police had turned down BBC, and he turned down ITV. And Winfried, my friend, said, this is bizarre, because the Chief of Police would normally be quite happy to give interviews. I will find out what's wrong. And he got onto the press office at the police headquarters, and they said, the problem is the chief, he doesn't speak English. And Winfried said, that's no problem, our guy speaks German. And we got the interview. And I remember we were editing it in the broadcast compound, and the late Tony Gubb of the BBC came over and saw what it was. How did you get that? And we beat the BBC and ITV with an exclusive. And the thing was, the Chief of Police, he saw no trouble at all. There was going to be no trouble. They were fans there for a football match, and that was exactly how it turned out.
Ray, the most pertinent thing at the start of this game, and it reared its head there recently when the Republic of Ireland played England. It's Mick Byrne. Right, it's Mick Byrne walking out of the bus. We're gonna do them for you today, right? And it is the most beautiful use of not only the Dublin accent, but the phraseology, how we speak, how you speak to fans, what sport does to you, all in one sentence. Did you know anything of this, Ray, that it was out there and that it was being replayed everywhere?
No, I only seen it the other day. I was laughing my head off, I've got to be honest. I ain't seen Mick for a little while, but hopefully he's in good form. But he was an amazing, absolutely amazing physio. He was more than, him and Charlie were more than just physio and kit man. You know, they were the ones you went if you had a problem. You didn't go to Jack or Morris. You went to Mick or to Charlie, and they'd sort things out for you. Two wonderful men who, you know, all they wanted to do was to do everything possible to make your life easier, for you to go out and play the game in the right way. I remember after the game, going behind the goal with Mick and with Charlie, and it was just this sense of, it wasn't just about players, it was a staff as well. We were all together, and that was what the Irish team was about. There wasn't little cliques of, 5 or 6 over there or 5 or 6 over there. It was all as one. We were all together, and that was what made the difference when we played football. There's no doubt in my mind about it. It was an amazing day. No one really bought into we were going to beat England. I don't think many people in Ireland bought into we were going to beat England either. It wasn't just outside of there. But Jack did. And Jack gave us tremendous confidence going into the match. He said, if you do the right things, you play them in the right way, and you close them down, and you put them under pressure, as he used to say, you can get a result in this game. But to get off to the flyer that we did, and obviously I scored that goal after, I think it was 6 minutes. Well, George was saying earlier about, the director who was directing the game. He went on me for a millisecond and he thought, can't be him, he's never scored before. So he started following John Aldridge.
That's right, yeah.
Many people won't know that. Many people won't know that. Not only was it Ireland's first ever goal in a major tournament, it's Ray Houghton's first ever goal in an Irish jersey. But let's just rewind a tiny wee bit, right? Because the team sheet for England that day, and I want your sort of view on this, no Hoddle. Hoddle was expected to play. Hoddle was the European golden boy. No Hoddle. What happened there, and how did you know that was going to take place?
We had absolutely no idea it was going to happen. It's the usual thing is the team, you only get the team 45 minutes, an hour before the game, and there's a sense of shock. But I think the thing was that we didn't care who played for England, really, because this was about Ireland's day. This was going to be such a day. The build-up had been tremendous. We'd been there since the Monday, and we filmed them arriving, and we were, as I say, in the hotel up in the woods above Stuttgart, and we were in the bubble with them. The whole press corps was in the bubble. So it was a case of never worry who they are. Yeah, we know who they are. And there's Peter Shilton's the goalkeeper, a bit Mark Wright in front of it. But they're just players like anybody else. It's England. It may be England. There may be a big deal about it. But it's the Irish team we're focusing on. And we're here and we're going to make the most of this. And there was a feeling, Ray, that there was no way you were going to be annihilated or in any way hammered, because the confidence in the group was so high that I remember saying to the German commentator when he asked me before the game, what do you think? I said, we're going to get 0-0. 1-0 would be great, but 0-0 would do, and I think 0-0 is very achievable. And I think, would you agree that that was in fact the feeling in the camp that you weren't going to get beaten?
Yeah, well, listen, the only problem we had, George, is we'd never been to a major tournament before, so we didn't know what to expect. There was no expectation on. All the pressure was on England. You know, every time England went to a tournament, doesn't matter if it was 60 years ago or as it was a few months ago, the expectation is they're one of the favourites to win it. They're there to win it. So all the pressure was on them. There was none on us. But we knew all the players. And if you went through our team, from Packy Bonner right through, every one of us had been involved in winning trophies, whether it had been leagues, FA Cups, up in Scotland, the Celtic boys and what they'd achieved. I think some of them had done the double that season as well for Celtic. So we'd all been part of success. So we knew what it was to win things and that knowledge of winning. So going into the game, yeah, we knew we might be up against it, but we weren't fearful of looking at them going, oh, they're much better than us. It was nothing like that. We knew if we went about it in the right way, we would get chances, and then it was up to them whether they could break us down.
The Irish fans, I was reading what the Irish fans had said about this when they had travelled. It says that they didn't realise, even themselves, how many had travelled. They expected to be outnumbered by England, and it turned out it was completely the opposite.
Yeah. It was like that every time. That was the start of it. I have this vivid image in my head of outside the stadium in Stuttgart. There's a lot of open space around that Neckar Stadion, as it was called then. And all these guys there very early for the match, obviously. Gates weren't even open, and they're all there, and it's a sea of green, guys lounging in the grass, and they're all wearing green shirts, and women too, obviously. But the number, it just went on forever. And it seemed that they were going to outnumber England in the stadium, and they're certainly going to outshout England in the stadium. But it was an amazing sight, and it lives with me. It was repeated again, obviously, at the World Cup in Italia 90. But just the fact, these were Irish sporting fans who'd never had the chance to put on a green shirt and go abroad and say, hey, I'm proud to be Irish. Yeah. And you could feel that from them, that they were on show, they were ambassadors, the team had given them a stage to show what being Irish was all about, and boy did the team respond to that.
But you said there, Ray, now that the Irish team, like you said, from Packy Bonner right through to the strikers, had all played in large tournaments, had all won cups. Yeah. Is the noise, and you'll know this, George, is that noise in an international tournament when you have the boys in green in front of you, the supporters in front of you, is that louder than, I don't know, let's say a Celtic Park or an Anfield?
Well, it's hard to say it's louder or not. All I can tell you is when the fans were there, they were there in their droves to support the team and they got behind them. 100%. The noise in the stadium was electric. You could hear from the England fans when it was going well. You could hear from the Republic of Ireland fans, particularly when we scored. You know, the place went absolutely nuts. England then just went all quiet. I'll tell you the difference, Connor. I think Frank Stapleton had a testimonial. He had 11,000 at it. A year later, after 88, David O'Leary had a testimonial. He had 37,000. That was the changeover with fans. That's what 1988, that competition did for these Irish support. All of a sudden, they've gone from, they're not bad, to, wow, they've gone to a tournament and they've done us proud. And that's when the numbers started coming and everyone you couldn't get tickets for love and money. People were going into debt to go to away matches, go to the 1990, borrowing money, knowing it'll take them years to pay it back. But to have that experience, to have that, to part of their football and life, to be there to support their team and be happy to do it, was absolutely incredible.
And Frank Stapleton's bank manager to this day is thinking, like, if he could have just held off a wee bit, if he just held off, the mortgage would have been easily paid. Yeah. David O'Leary's living in a palace somewhere, just outside Leeds, off the head of it. Right, we have to get to the goal then, Ray. This is the moment. This is one of the big moments in Irish sport. One of those moments that will live with us for decades to come. And like you said, first time Ireland are there. At a major championships, right? And even from your perspective, because we'll talk about your other important goal in a while, Ray, and both of them were quite early in the match.
Yes.
How does that unnerve a commentator?
I think it probably does, because it's something that you weren't necessarily expecting. I mean, I can recall vividly being very much on edge because it was the first match. And you want to be able to match the occasion, but equally you're aware that if it should, despite your best thoughts, go horribly wrong, how are you going to get out of this? And then it starts, and it looks like they belong on this stage, because everything is beginning very, very well. And then, of course, that happened so early.
and then I have to quote Christy Moore here, because I'll be honest with you, I've been singing it all day knowing that I was going to be talking to you, and then Ray Houghton got the ball and stuck it in the net. Right, tell me about the goal, Ray, and the goal that is one of our moments, one of the big moments in Irish sporting history.
Well, Christy actually sent me a DVD of her back in the day, and it was all signed at the back. I had one line in it. That was it. When Ray Houghton got the ball and stuck it in the net, that was it. Everyone said it was my song. There was plenty of other people that were mentioned throughout it, and it was great to be part of it. But just emotionally, absolutely incredible. You know, to score. I'm often asked, listen, I didn't score an awful lot of goals domestically or internationally, but I'm often asked, what was your favourite between England in '88 or against Italy in 1994? And for me, it's easy. It's England. First time I scored for Ireland. First time Ireland had ever been to a major tournament. First win. You know, no one can ever repeat that. No, you know, that's in the history books forever. That's there. You know, I'm being very fortunate. Same in '94. First time Ireland ever won outright a World Cup game at a major tournament. I scored the winning goal. So, you know, that's my claim to fame. Never mind the trophies that won, but playing for Ireland, they're two things that no one can ever take away from me. You know, they're in my memory bank forever.
I watched this goal, I'd say easily in the last 2 days, probably 30, 40 times maybe. Just trying to get kind of...
How many times did you think I was going to miss?
39 probably. But one thing that's never mentioned, right? And I was going through press clippings, which is also known as the internet, and seeing what people were saying about it. Yeah. Nobody mentions that Ray Houghton scores his first goal for the Republic of Ireland, their first goal in a major tournament, with a header looping over what was probably the number one goalkeeper, certainly in Europe, possibly in the world at the time. Yeah, you don't jump. Nobody highlights that you never left the ground, which has blown my mind.
It's all about timing, Connor. You should know that. Only bad players jump. You'll learn this as you go along. God will tell you, and I'm sure you're going to be doing lots more of these podcasts with other players. Only bad players jump. You know, that's what I tell people. Listen, I didn't score many goals away. It was just one of them fortunate moments that just fell to me at the right time. And, you know, I seen that Peter Shilton was off his line, and I just looked at the header. And it's amazing. It was a bit like 94. Certain things go through your mind, just going over. The lad got back on the line. He's going to clear it. And then once you see it hit the back of the net, I was off and running. I've never seen Ronnie Whelan run that quick before. I didn't think Ronnie was that quick. But I tell you what, whenever a goal went in, Ronnie was the first one there behind you. Incredible. He could do the 100 metres in about 9.5 seconds when he wanted to, Ronnie, when the ball went in. And he knew he was going to be on the camera. But it was absolutely fabulous. As I say, the cameraman went to John Aldridge. He did come to me because he probably thought it can't be him. He's never scored before.
Yeah, well, I didn't really have to live through this, right? Because probably 1990 is my first big World Cup and my big first sort of, I suppose, experience watching the Republic of Ireland. But retrospectively watching it back, right, the time between when you scored and full time must have been for both of you the longest. What are we talking? Is it 84 minutes?
Yeah, the longest day. Didn't you get into trouble for scoring that goal?
Well, Jack did say to me after the game, he said, "Don't you ever do that again." And I thought he meant score against England because him being English. And he said, no, I've scored that early. That was the longest 84 minutes of my bloody life, he said.
So would you like to relive it, Ray?
Oh, of course, yeah. I'd like
Right.
to go back in time and I know you could play it out for me, but yeah, listen.
No. This is the joy, right? And this is the weird thing, because you will not have heard this, obviously, on the day because you were on the pitch, right?
Yes.
But the rest of us, the internet today, the people listening to this podcast, the fans of the Republic of Ireland team will have heard George's dulcet tones that day. So, because this is It's There with myself and George has looked through the sporting annals. He has rewritten the script, and he's going to give us what he said on that very day before we head to bonus part 2 of this podcast. George, this is a reliving of one of the greatest moments of Irish sport.
Wright and Stevens together. Galvin pulling it across. Miss kick by Sansom. In goes Aldridge. And Houghton! 1-0. And Ray Houghton has got the breakthrough. And Jack Charlton cannot believe it.
I mean, the hairs in the back of the neck there.
I've got goosebumps at the moment. Yeah.
So that's a brilliant way to end talking about 1988. It was joy and happiness. Oh, just one quick question for you about 1988 before we go. Is it true that, how do I put this delicately, the population of Ireland may have grown 9 months after when Ray Houghton got the ball and stuck it in the net? There are supposedly specifics for this and statistics for this, but have you heard anything?
I'll tell you what I've been blamed for. People smashing the telly, people smashing the tables where they jumped up and down and didn't realise and have landed on the table. Divorces, people getting divorced, people getting married. Children, as you quite rightly pointed out, 9 months down the line. So I've been blamed for many, many things when I come back to Ireland. I still haven't had to buy a pint in the pub, so there you are.
Let me do the maths here. So the 12th of June, 1980. So June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March.
March the 12th.
So if you're kind of a Paddy's Day baby in and around 1989, just ask your folks, did it have anything to do with Ray Houghton? Absolutely fantastic, Ray. And because you're here, it's just brilliant to be able to do this, because this is the first episode of this podcast. Normally we'd have to say, that was brilliant. Join us next time. But because you're here, this is a twofer, a bog off, a buy one, get one free. George, I'll let you build up what happened. 1994.
6 years on, and it's a second World Cup for Ireland, and we're off to America. And we went to a place, again, we're travelling with the team, we're on the plane with Jack and the boys, and we land in JFK and we head for New Jersey, Parsippany, New Jersey, and this magnificent big hotel, all American, huge place, and a really lovely location. And we're now all excited about this match that's coming up, because it's going to be against Italy. And Italy are just synonymous with World Cups. Like, you go back to 82, they won the World Cup. Then they came to Dalymount in 85 when the crowd spilled onto the pitch because it was overcrowded. And Paolo Rossi, player of the tournament, was substituted and had to go down the touchline, shaking hands with all these fans who were on the touchline. You know, the wonderful history of Ireland playing England, but Italy, I should say, but no expectation really that. It's more hope than expectation that there will be a victory against Italy in this opening match in Giant Stadium. There's all the talk about New York being an Italian city and all the blue shirts that'll be in the stadium, and it's going to be hard for Ireland. So here we are in the stadium, and we're looking around, and there's more green than blue, and it's astonishing. And I'm with Niall Quinn, because Niall's injured and he can't be part of this. So he's basically our first co-commentator, because we didn't have co-commentators at the Euros in Germany or the Italian World Cup, but we have a co-commentator now. And it's
how did that come to pass? Sorry, how did you end up with co-commentators? Was it because it was someone as high profile as Niall and we had to use him?
No, it was because we had someone as high profile as Niall, who was part of the squad. You know, he'd been through all this with the players, and this was our inside track. It was too good an opportunity to miss. And Niall's a very eloquent guy, and he was perfect for the job. But the problem was he's also a very tall guy, and American commentary booths behind the glass are quite quite small. So we were in there behind the glass watching this match, and by the end of it, we'd lost about a stone through perspiration because it was such a hot day. But what an experience we'd had that day, because, well, we're beginning at the end. It was another of the really great Irish days, and it couldn't have happened in a better place, of course.
A story that a lot of people don't know, Ray, because obviously you've experienced then, at this stage, you've experienced playing for Liverpool, you've experienced winning trophies, you've experienced scoring in European Championships, you've experienced being in a team that went on to the quarterfinal of the World Cup 4 years previous. So nerves wouldn't really have been a thing for you and a lot of the players. But just in case it was, or just in case it was too much to take, there was an issue with the jerseys, and we sit here surrounded by Ireland jerseys, right? There was an issue with the jerseys that I've done a little bit of digging into it, that it was a disaster, but it helped the Ireland team. Can you explain that?
What the issue was is there wasn't like just one tunnel, and as you come out, both of you can see each other. We actually came out with two different areas. So as the Italian team came out and we came out, we were looking at them, we're going, what, same shirts on, isn't it? What's happening here? And then we realised we had a problem, and it was our fault. So we had to rush back into the changing room, change the shirts. You can imagine Jack having to go at Charlie, you had one job to do, make sure you get the right kit on. But it was brilliant for us because it calmed us down. We had no time to be nervous. You know, you're getting your shirt on and rushing back out there and then going out for the national anthems. So we were ready and prepared. And don't forget, we'd lost 4 years earlier to them in the quarter-final. So we knew that we wanted to try and get something major out of this game. We knew it was going to be tough because, as George pointed out, when Italy go to World Cups, you know, they are a very, very good side. You know, if you look through their record, it's absolutely fantastic. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, but the pitch suited us. If you looked at the size of the actual pitch itself, the dimensions, it was quite narrow and not very long. So it was perfect for us to keep nice and tight, keep compact, and then, as Jack liked us to do, put them under a bit of pressure. But it was a little bit more difficult because of the heat that day. It was very warm in the stadium, so we had to do it when we could. We couldn't do it all the time, but we would normally have tried to do in other games. But we'd done it often enough to put them off. But one of the players was Paul McGrath. Paul should never have played. 99.9999% of players would not have played in that tournament with what Paul had. He had a virus, I think it was in his shoulder. He could hardly move it. I think he was getting injections to play. And he went out in that game and gave a masterclass. Even Franco Baresi, one of the greatest centre-backs of his time in football, said that was the best centre-back performance he'd seen. And that's high praise in itself.
There's a famous 3-tackle clip, and it's towards the end of the game. And we are going to come back to your goal in a second, Ray, but there's a famous 3-tackle or 4-tackle clip, I think it is, where McGrath gets up, tackles, falls to the ground, does it again, and Ireland clear the ball. And that summed up Paul McGrath that day, didn't it?
It did. It was quite astonishing. I mean, obviously we didn't know how serious his health situation was in the context of the game, but he played as if he was a man possessed. He was determined. The determination oozed from his every move, and that sequence that you describe, I can well recall it because he was doing things that he shouldn't have been able to do. The very fact of getting up again and going in and then falling to the floor again and having to get up again. It spoke volumes for his fitness, and you know, when you think of Paul, who probably didn't train as much as some players, there he is. A really wonderful experience to have had the chance to commentate on that performance by Paul McGrath.
Well, hold on, Paul McGrath's not here. Now, he's one for the future. Yeah. We want to get him on this podcast, right? Paul McGrath, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are, we'll get you on this podcast. We'll talk about that and the other big days. Ray Houghton's here. And this, I think, now being someone who occasionally plays as a goalkeeper, right? The Packy Bonner save for me in 1990 was like, that was it. That's all I talked about for years, right? And anytime you're near Packy or around Packy, I kind of still get the tingle. But there was something about that day, that giant stadium that day. 100,000 people, give or take.
Yeah, huge crowd.
I think if everybody who said they were there were actually there, I think 250,000 people were at that match. Ray, Joe Kinnear said before the match on RTE that Ireland would win 1-0, take control totally of the midfield. And I think you have to take some of the responsibility for that.
Well, I wouldn't say we controlled the midfield completely. But yeah, it was once again another great start. You know, we settled into the game very well. Jack had to change the system. Normally we were a 4-4-2 team. You know, Jack was very reticent to change that. He liked the two up top, one just dropping a little bit deeper. But because we had so many injuries, Niall Quinn being out, amongst others, Jack decided to go with 5 in midfield. He brought in an extra central midfielder, and that only gave us one centre forward, which was Tommy Coyle, which was a really tough job on the day, because with it being really hot, Tommy was running the channels, and you know he put so much into it. Whereas for the midfielders, and as I said, because the pitch was quite tight, we were quite compact as a 5, so we really didn't get caught out of position too often. But once again, when the ball was played forward and Baresi headed it out, I sort of read his intention, so I got it on my chest, and then I tried to play it to Steve Stone, and he got marked, and I was trying to tell him off for being marked. He should have made an angle with the receiver. And it was one of them occasions, Conor, where the ball just sat up, and I thought, why not? I know it's on my left foot, but why not? And once again, it's the same thoughts that go through your mind. First one was, it was going over the bar. You know, when I first said it, I thought, I got too much on it. The second one, if you're a keeper yourself, I'm thinking, he's got to save that. You know, it's virtually right on top of him. He's just got to push it over the bar. And then when he's not got his hand into it, and I've seen it hit the back of it, well, I'm off and running. Now, I only did very simple goal celebrations, was just put my hand up. That was it. Now, I'd done the forward row, which is known in Birmingham, where I was playing my football in time for Villa, as a gamble. And after the game, the media boys were saying, why did you do the forward row? And I'm saying, I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't do that. I said, I only put my hand up. They went, no, you did a forward row. I went, no, I never. No, it's not me. And I could not remember doing it. And then we went to, because we had to wait for Tommy Coyne, because he had to give a urine sample after the game, and couldn't. He couldn't give a sample. He was so dehydrated. So we were stuck over at the horse racing place next to the stadium for over an hour. And our family and friends were there, and I went over to see my wife, and even she said to me, what did you do that forward row for? That? I didn't. Could not remember. And then when I did finally realise, I thought, oh my goodness, why did I do that? You made a real fool of yourself.
Oh, what a day.
Do you remember the role? Do you remember the role?
I do remember. I was shocked.
I think it's like, do you remember when
the fact that I could do a role?
Yes.
Do you remember when Robbie Keane started doing the cartwheel thing,
yeah.
and we all kind of went, fair play to you, Robbie, but you know, you're not Simone Biles, right? You're not, if you're going to commit to a celebration like that, at least be able to do a hands-free somersault. You know, be one of those lads who are incredibly athletic, and I mean that from like the athlete's mat kind of way, gymnastics athletic kind of way. Yours was even worse, Ray, if you don't mind me saying. It was kind of like, what do I do? I've just scored a goal in a World Cup.
Yeah. I've got to be honest with you, I've been asked many times in the last few years to replicate it, to do it. No chance. I'd be in hospital for weeks. You know? It wasn't a great celebration, but you know, it was to score the goal that day, particularly against Italy, as I said, we beat us 4 years earlier in the quarterfinals. It wasn't like we got something back on them completely, because you know, losing the quarterfinals is heartbreaking. You know, for a small nation like ourselves to get to that level, to get to the quarterfinals was absolutely amazing. But it was brilliant to get off the start, because I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting to play. You know, in the build-up, we played a friendly match in Germany, and I was a sub, came on as a sub. But it was the doctor in Ireland who just gave me some advice. He said, look, get yourself as fit as you can. So I used to get into the gymnasium, the sauna locally, with my full kit on, you know, like tracksuit and everything, and do running in the sauna to get myself prepared for what was going to be the heat we were going to endure over in America. So it got me in really good shape. And it was only a couple of days before the game that Kevin Moran actually said to me, I think Jack's going to pick you because you've looked back to your old self in training, you look fit, and he'll probably go with your experience. And I'm glad he did.
I just want to get an insight, if I can, from both of you about these moments, and do you both realise how important they are to people? Because not only do I know everything about that goal, and this isn't the person who works in the media, or this isn't a statistician, if that's the right word, or an analyst. This is a fan. I was sitting on a navy blue chair that day with a yellow cushion in my Uncle Kieran's house. And I remember what his fire looked like. I remember the pictures above his TV. Now, if you ask me to describe anything about any of my uncle's houses my entire life, I couldn't do that. But I can remember that exact moment. And as soon as it was over, we went, and he had Ireland flags, and we went to the gate of his house. And we were just flag, and people driving past in the cars, blowing the horns. So you provided the soundtrack for that. Ray, you provided the physical just hit it moment for that. So to both of you, I'll start with you, George. Like, do you realise what that does and where that sits with people for joy? And I'm going to quote you, Ray, here. You've said this, forever remembered moment.
There's part of you that does, because obviously it is so significant, and that was such a goal, and the surprise element that Ray has so eloquently explained about. There was going to be a pass to Steve Staunton, but the pass wasn't on, so I'll try something else. Why not? So the surprise factor and the surprise of the forward roll and all of that, you know that this is going to be a clip. Like, a commentator is always aware, and I've learned this in my BBC days at the very start, always aware that somewhere along the line your words are going to be clipped, and there's going to be a very short version of them broadcast to remember the moment. So you're conscious of the clip at all times. So you're conscious that this is significant. But there's another side to this as well, which, when we're looking back and wallowing in the delight of the day and the 1-0 victory. At 5, 6, 7 minutes in and you go 1-0 up, it's not over. There's a lot more to come. And how many teams have scored first and ended up losing? So you cannot at that moment say that there is no earthly way that you could say this is the definitive moment in the game. It is a wonderful moment. It is a moment that is very, very, very special and will be forever treasured. But the context in which it will be treasured changes with the passage of the game, and it only becomes the really significant moment when the final whistle sounds, and that was the decisive call, that was the decisive kick, that was the decisive goal.
And I think, Ray, for you, a man who became, I think, England's record goal scorer, Manchester United's record goal scorer, Wayne Rooney. Did Wayne Rooney say in an interview that was his most memorable World Cup moment? I'm sure he knows what colour his auntie's sofa was at that time.
I think it was his first World Cup that he remembered something happening, and obviously I scored that goal in the first matches. So I think that's what stuck in his mind. But it's great for someone of that, the quality and the player that he was, and that's one of his memories that he's got from a major competition like the World Cup back in 1994. But you were saying earlier, does it resonate with the people in the media like George and myself as a player, what it means to the fan? Absolutely. On the way to the stadium that day, we got told there's going to be 75% Italian fans in the stadium, only 25% Irish. We're on the coach. All that we can see is Irish fans in their colours, with their shirts on. We're waving out to them. We're thinking, no, they're not all Irish fans. It was all the Italians. It was anything but that. It was 75% Irish. All the fans had come from all over America or all over Europe. Obviously, most of them from Ireland. They'd do anything to be there that day because it meant so much to them. They wanted to be part of that very special tournament because some of them missed out in 1990. So they wanted to be there for this one. Because you never know. George will tell you, you never know if you're going to get you another. You always think you might. But there's no guarantees in it, particularly the way football was at that time. There was only like maybe one, maybe two. I think it went to two at that stage that qualified. So you had to be a very good side, and that wasn't always going to be the case that you were going to qualify. So fans wanted to savour it. They wanted to be part of it. And we knew that. We knew what they wanted as well. And George will tell you, every hotel we stayed in, we'd come down every morning and the hotel lobby would be full of fans with memorabilia, shirts, scarves, And we would stand there and we'd sign every one of them for them because we knew that was part of the deal, being an international. You wouldn't get it today. They wouldn't be allowed into the hotels. But back then, of course, they actually stayed in the hotels with you. So we would have certain floors for us. But as soon as you come down for your breakfast in the morning or went for a walk or whatever, be countless numbers of supporters there with all their shirts and whoever they wanted signing, and every player did what they had to do. That was the camaraderie. That was the spirit amongst the supporters and the players at that particular time.
I think for both of you, I'm sure you get this all the time, but thank you. Do you know what I mean? And Ray, thank you. I know you kept playing with Ireland till 1987. You had many other games for the Republic of Ireland, but the two we've talked about today are massively important to many people, because sport is that thing sometimes. It's just you need, especially in a world that moves at 1,000 miles an hour now, even to go back and be able to watch these and to hear us talking about them today. So can I say on behalf of the Irish people, Ray, thank you?
Oh, it's been my pleasure. There's no thanks needed here, Connor. It was an absolutely fantastic, joyful time to be around the Irish team. So much fun, so much joy, so many happy memories, not just with the players, but with George and the media as well, because they were very much part of it. It wasn't just about the players, it was everyone that was involved. The supporters that came along and watched this as well. They were a massive part of the journey that we were on. And
I know he won't say it. He's a very special man, isn't he? Like I know his name's above the door with this podcast and stuff, and he's sitting here beside me. He's a very special man, isn't he?
He is. He's the most gracious person that you can come across. He very much give his time for anyone. He's always there if you needed help. A very special person and someone I'd like to call my friend.
So, and you're my friend, Ray, forever, because it's just lovely. I've had the opportunity as a commentator to share commentary boxes with Ray over many years after the wonderful moments that we've been talking about in his footballing career, and I reciprocate it. It's a pleasure to have you as a friend, Ray. It really, really is, and it's great to be able to call you, and it's great to have you on the first of the podcast.
I'd just like to say to you and Connor, I hope the podcast goes from strength to strength, and I'm very honoured that you've asked me to come along as your first guest. That means a great deal to me. Thanks very much.
We're going to relive what we lived on the 18th of June 1994 at Giant Stadium in New York. It was another moment in Irish sport that made us happier than we ever thought possible.
Sheridan, Baresi, onto it comes Houghton, and Houghton with a shot, and it's there! Ray Houghton! Bring me back and I'll do the job for you, Jack. And he's done just that. After only 11 minutes, what splendid, sparkling opportunism.
And it doesn't get any better than that. See you next time for another episode of It's There.